everyone. Welcome back to the Born for Adventure podcast. I'm Karissa, Akin, and today we're getting tactical about skiing with kids, from dressing for the cold to teaching those first turns without frustration. I'm joined by Michael Friedberg, former U.S. ski team athlete, World Cup mogul skier, and elite coach, now a dad navigating the adventure of teaching his 3-year-old to ski. We'll cover gear must-haves, getting to the mountain without chaos, and the best ways to help kids build confidence on snow. Plus, don't forget, our Love Letter to Skiing giveaway is still open. Share yours with us for a chance to win a $200 gift card. All right, let's get into it.
I brought some props for this one just to
Great.
try
Love
to do
it.
better.
Oh, I think this is going to be great. I think, yeah, let's just, I think I can start with just like a little recap of last time, and then we'll stay focused on just getting out on the hill.
Yeah. Okay. Let's go.
Awesome. Well, I had so much fun in our first episode, and we really kind of dug into the anxiety, I guess, that some of us feel, a lot of us feel, that love skiing and are sharing skiing now with our kids or other sports. Like, I liked your quote that it's, kind of feels silly. It's like worrying about our kids liking birthday cake, but it's real, where that anxiety comes from. And just boiling it down to you can't make a World Cup skier at 5, but you can, kind of ruin it for them. So just taking that pressure off and really making it all about the love. I love that we ended with encouraging everyone to write a love letter to skiing and allowing that to kind of you in your journey with skiing with your kids. And I wanted to ask you if you would be willing to share any of your reflections or takeaways from your love letter and how that's shaping the way you share skiing with Darwin.
Yeah. Yeah. So two things. I do like using the word anxiety. Like it makes you feel kind of silly to say it, but like that's what it is, and it's okay. And I was reflecting on that, and I feel like Darwin, we've got another one on the way, but she was our first, and I just remember the anxiety that I had around first steps, right? Like, and she's like pulling herself up, and it's like any day now, and it's so funny because I can kind of take a little bit of a long view. We might talk about it, we might not. I had a business trip that involved skiing, and you just kind of like start to realize, like, like people ski, like people ski. Like this isn't like, will they or won't they walk? Like they will walk, right? And like parents that have kids older than yours are kind of like, hey, like enjoy this while you can, right? Like you don't want them running around getting into everything, but of course you do. And so I feel like that's kind of like what like the real early skiing is like sort of like this unnecessary anxiety about like, when's my kid gonna walk, when's my kid gonna ski, and then you kind of like zoom out a little bit and you're like, they're gonna ski, right? Like people ski, right? Like not everyone skis World Cup, not everyone does whatever, but like they all ski, and that is truly my goal for Darwin, is just to be a lifelong lover of skiing. And so yeah, that's kind of a funny like long view that I was able to take by doing a work trip and skiing with people who don't live in ski towns and don't necessarily have this same background. Like we do live in our own bubbles, and so my bubble is around maybe high performance skiing. But yeah, I did kind of revisit my love letter to skiing, and so some of the things that came up was one, I'm still like deeply focused on like the sport of it. Like I'm the kind of dork that like when I go ski touring, I bring my cycling head unit and I like check my metrics, and so I'm still like love the sport, and even like skiing, like I don't just ski without like a technical focus. Like I'll always be kind of like thinking about like some aspect of my technique, or kind of checking in with that, because that's just something that brings me joy. Shared experience is definitely like went from being like something I didn't even notice when I was skiing World Cup, but was actually like part of the love. It's like the lifelong friends that I made through skiing, but that was just kind of running in the background. And now that's like, if I'm stack ranking it, it's probably number one. So that shared experience of like still being able to ski with my dad, skiing with Darwin, skiing with my wife, skiing with lifelong friends that, I've skied with for, in some cases, 30 plus years. So that's huge. And then also I'm kind of realizing like I don't play golf. I never want to play golf. and how good it can be to connect in business with skiing, because it's like the chairlift is just, there's kind of some articles written, cycling is the new golf, but man, like a chairlift is really a great place to connect, through business or personal. Yeah, so those were the kind of big takeaways from mine. How about you, Carissa? What do you got?
Yeah. Well, first, I just want to one thing on the community. I think just for the listeners, you're in Vail, Colorado. I'm in
Yeah,
Jackson, Wyoming, and I think that's we kind of reference that bubble sometimes, and
yeah,
it is a real thing, and being in kind of these like environments where everybody's, a little aggro or a little competitive and like, really worried about where their kids are at in skiing. And I love that reflection that you had that, they're going to learn to ski. And I think the experience, that shared experience, can really lead to a lifelong love of skiing.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, I really enjoyed doing the love letter. I admitted to you that I did outsource my love letter to ChatGPT,
Genius.
but I needed a little help framing it all out. But I I feel like for my kids, I love that skiing has shown me that I can do hard things, and I want them to know that they also can do hard things. There's so much in skiing, and um, that really breeds that resilience and being able to um, push through hard experiences, push through hard weather sometimes, um, and I love that piece about it. I also want them to know that, for me, like skiing's always been there to help, like has been a really healthy way to get through hard things in life, and I want them to know that skiing's there and it's a great way to, I don't know, think through everything you're going through, um and just a healthy way to kind of process life when life gets hard. And then yeah, shared experience and connection. I just some of the best, best mom friends, best friends, like um has been out on the hill, and I feel like I've recently just created this, or just really moved into this much closer relationship with my daughter and niece, because I've been taking them out each Saturday to ski with them, 4 and 5.
That's so
So
cool. That's
yeah.
so cool. Yeah, that's so well said. And I experienced that a lot. I think I was pretty open about it. Like when I was growing up, like I wasn't the happiest kid. I had learning disabilities. I wasn't finding any sort of like effort equals achievement in my scholastic life, and so skiing gave me so much confidence. And it's
Yeah.
really fun to see, even at 3 years old, the confidence that Darwin's getting out of skiing. And I had a great talk with one of my friends up here that I met through cycling, Chris Baddock. Shout out if you're listening. And we were talking about kids and kind of like happiness versus resilience and versus growth, and call it kind of all these other pieces. And it's like, man, we really, he has two girls, I'm about to have two girls, you have two girls. It's like we just really want resilient kids. And it was funny kind of talking to him about it, because I still have this sense of like, if you don't love it, you'll never work hard enough to be good at it and to learn these lessons, right? To like push through, like, because you got to love it, right? Like if it's like,
Mhm.
I can't tell you how many sports I don't play.
Yeah.
Like back to golf. If I went out and hit a golf ball, I'm sure it would go some, like unfavorable direction, and I wouldn't learn. Just be like, I'm going to go ride my bike, or I got some time, I'm going to hit the gym, or insert. There's just so many things I love to do that I'm not willing to power through that. So I do think that like step one is
Mhm.
to make them love it. And I was talking to Chris because we do a lot of sledding, and I think that sledding is a great like ski adjacent sport, right? Like, it's like you're out in the cold. There's sliding on snow. There's all these things, but I don't really care. Like Darwin loves it. First of all, like the
Yeah.
hook is set. Like she absolutely loves sledding. We sled every single day. And so
Awesome.
I'm using sledding as like this proxy where there'll be a reward, and we'll talk before we go out, because it's like we have to walk up this big hill. And I have this rig where I like pull her, like I know waist belt and all that, but like, but we'll decide how many times she thinks she can walk up the hill, and I'll hold her to it. And there'll be a little bit of acrimony around that. And I feel like we're building resilience there, because it's
Mhm.
like, or it's like you can give it up, right? Like, like if today just isn't the day that you want the treat, like I'm happy to like put the harness on and like pull you up the hill, and like we're still gonna have an awesome time, but like that reward piece. And my daughter's 3, right? Like 3.5. So
Yeah.
there's kind of the age appropriateness of it, but that's where I'm bringing that resilience piece in, is kind of through that. And I don't doubt that at some point we'll have those conversations about skiing. Like, how many runs do you think you can do? It's like, is today the day that we do this challenge or that challenge? But it's interesting. So you missed out on this from my coaching because you were an adult, right? So, but it's like when I'm coaching kids and I talk to their parents and I say, look, the skiing is great, and I hope your kid is a lifelong lover of the sport. They're going to have amazing skills. But what I really want to teach them is this operating system of setting and achieving goals. And I feel like if you love sport enough to end up, like when I was the head coach of Ski and Snowboard Club Vail, to kind of intersect my group, which is like the FIS group, the high performance group, you already love it, right? Like we don't even have to talk about that, you
Yeah.
know? And this is where that like setting and achieving goals and kind of realizing that like fun in some ways is like here, and then
Hmm.
achievement is like up here, and like wanting to chase that and kind of be uncomfortable and build resilience. And I'd have parents come to me and sometimes quite angry, right? Because I'm pushing their kid and they're saying he's doing his best, and I would just kind of stop them there and say like, I know this is hard to watch your kid struggle. Like, believe me, I care about your child. I want
Yeah.
this for them, but like to say that they're doing their best right now is cutting them so short. Like, I don't think we've even come close to to any sort of, we're not even within sight of what their best is. And so we have to get through this piece, and that's like where the resilience comes from. And so at 3, like that's not skiing, right? Like love it, you know everything is focused on that love, but I am working with sledding as like, kind of the, like, I don't know, Darwin, what do you think? Do you think, we did it, you hiked up it 6 times yesterday, do you think you could do 8 today? Like, okay, if you do 8, like we can watch a Paw Patrol and we can have, we it's also funny to negotiate, right? Like to watch your kid kind of like figure that out. But
Yeah.
yeah, like we can negotiate for some number of intermediate gummy bears and a big reward. And so, I do think that the resilience, the confidence um, that sport can give you is just, you know, and if your kid finds it somewhere else, even better. But that
Yeah.
was my path, and that was a path that I'm passionate about sharing with other people.
I love that. Thank you. Um, what have you had any big surprises as far as like introducing Darwin to skiing that you didn't see or like kind of foresee?
I mean, kind of all of it, right?
Yeah.
Like I'd never taught a kid to ski, so even just kind of the idea of like, what do you do? Like, what do you need? What do you got? And my neighbor is a, former uh, all-star collegiate Nordic skier, and he's got kids that are a little bit older. So I mean, we literally just like borrowed Charlotte's skis, and they had the edgy wedgie on them, and it was just like that was like that real kind of like, let's just get Darwin on skis before she's 2, and like kind of low stakes, and just borrowed it
Yeah.
from him. Yeah, I mean, uh, it's really all been a steep learning curve. But back to the community piece, like there's so many people with older kids, or it's fun because I'll see Kai Owen's parents. She was on the Vail team when you were, and she went to the Olympics, and I'll see her parents at the grocery store. I'm like, oh, I saw that video of Darwin on Instagram, and I was like, yeah, what you guys, it's just so fun to have that, and I think that's what we're trying to kind of create through this podcast
Yeah.
and related posts, is just kind of like, yeah, let's take this to the wisdom of the crowd. Um,
Absolutely.
how about you?
And
What are some things that have surprised you?
oh, I mean, I guess it shouldn't be surprising. I think I've learned a lot about myself
Yeah.
taking kids to ski, and I think I've probably had a lot of growth and development and maturity from this experience because I noticed that you just like the newfound patience that I have, and I think, um, yeah, I mean, just learning how I'm not like we've talked about this before, but like I'm not great at the indoor play, but I'm better at the outdoor play. And so like learning how to really play again and kind of reconnect with that. Like you seem to be great at like getting out and sledding and have it like playing with your kids. And I think this has been skiing for me has been that outlet that I kind of was missing, I guess, in my parenting. And it's helped me in a lot of other areas too. So
Yeah.
um, it, I think also just yeah, I'm always asking other people about their experiences with teaching really young kids to ski. And is there any advice like that you've gotten from
Yeah.
Kyolin's
So,
parents
I
or
mean, I guess
anyone else
one
that
of
you
the
would
things that I've
share?
yeah, that's a great question. And one of the things that I've realized is like, there's no right way to do this, and
Hmm.
it's like, I'm a proponent of edgy wedgies, like some people like, and it's like, so you'll hear so many different things. And, so when you listen to me talk, like keep in mind, so far I've got a sample set of one, you know, and we're doing great. We're having fun. But like I'll talk to parents, like Kai's parents, for example, like, oh, we used to take her skiing on a broomstick, and it like is like it's as crazy as it sounds. It's like literally like and who knows, like knowing Nim, she was probably like 4 months old. But like they basically like had her straddling this broomstick, and they could like tilt her hips. And I'm just kind of thinking like, okay, that's wild. And I've seen people do hockey sticks. I've seen people do hula hoops. We didn't do any of that, and part of it's just because I kind of can't be bothered with the extra equipment, right? Like, because I kind of already told you, like I've got her like in the stroller, I've got everything on my back, and I just the thought of a hula hoop, hockey stick, um, any other accoutrement is just it's the straw
Yeah.
that breaks the camel's back for me. But we did do the the harness with the leashes, and I think that's kind of like bare minimum when you're taking a kid who's like
Hmm.
one to maybe three. Is probably good to have that because it's like good to grab them. It's good to it's just their language skills and ability to respond are not good enough to keep them safe. So I think that's like a minimum. If you want to take something else, great, right? Because it's like here's all these families that have had like tremendous success with that. And and then I'm also here to say that we didn't do that and it was fine. But I think it's just kind of like that. Uh, try to. It's like, did you teach your kid to walk by? It's like you're playing with your kid, right? So sometimes they stand on your feet and you do that, and sometimes and it's play, and try to bring that learning to walk mindset to it, where it's like this is fun and maybe there's a handful of things we can do to accelerate it, but you know what? Like give me a 5-year-old who's never seen snow, and we'll put skis on their feet and away we go, because it's just those kind of developmental milestones. So yeah, I mean that would be my advice, right? Like, and it is funny, like to go back to the learning to walk thing, right? Like there's like a number of toys that have like a handle and you can put like weight in it and kind of push it and you can do that, like, or not. Or not, and a kid
Yeah.
will walk, and they might, I don't know, you can't prove a counterfactual, right? So it's like that same kid might have walked, like I maybe walked 14 days earlier because of that.
Yeah.
And it's just not something to do. And kind of back to like your own headspace is like, if one of our like core values that we surface through our love letters is like the shared experience, don't
Hmm.
keep pushing that away, like, oh well, once they can stop on their own or once they can whatever. It's just like, no, you were skiing with your kid and that is awesome.
Yeah.
And just kind of like own that own that experience, and not beat yourself up over maybe some buddy's kids skiing better than your kid, or I don't know. I mean, just all the kind of
Yeah.
crazy things, the crazy things that we do too, where you see another parent like, oh, is she walking yet? And you're like, not yet. And it kind of feels,
Yeah.
a certain way. And, it's just like a shared experience. Like you are out there skiing with your child and making core memories, and, yeah,
Yeah. That's
celebrate
pretty
that.
cool. You could talk maybe a little bit about where you're at with Darwin in
Yeah.
skiing and how you've approached like keeping her confident and feeling like, kind of how have you been
Yeah.
like, okay, let's progress to this, or how
Yeah.
has
So I
your
mean, we're
progression
at the
been
point where
so
we're
far?
like, we're post edgy wedgie, which kind of drives me crazy, right? Because the edgy wedgie at 2, she does this incredible like forward stance, where it's kind of like, I don't know, like showing people, offline, of course, we're kind of like, dude, check that out, like knees over toes, like this kid's, like this kid's forward. And so, we took the edgy wedgie off, and then you got kind of crazy legs and like these like wider wedges. So where we're at, and Darwin turns 4 on April 18th, is we're on turn to stop. Because like as you start introducing steeper terrain, like stopping with a wedge is just insane, right? Like you just they end up on your butt. So we're on turn to stop. We're introducing like parallel turns. Yesterday she skied powder, which was super fun. We've had like the most incredible storm, and there was like these areas where there was like probably like 4 to 6 like with groomed underneath, and she was able to kind of rip through that, which was fun. We ski into trees a lot. Um, but I do try to bring her back to like the really low angle stuff and try to get her to regain that stance. Um, and one thing that I realized is like I really don't let her crash because like one, it's like upsetting to me, and it's probably upsetting to me like one because it's like there's this like psychotic thing that happened to me where I was around this sport so long, like I'd watch kids get concussions and blow their knees and just have horrible injuries. And I like to think I was always compassionate, but in my mind, it was always part of the sport.
Hmm.
And if any parents of kids I was coaching, if I owe anyone an apology, let me know. I mean, I never, but it's so different when it's your kid,
Yeah.
right? Like I can't even watch her fall in the living room without kind of having this like visceral response to it. So, um, but part of skiing and part of building resilience and confidence, all that is crashing, and so it's like you obviously want to be very calculated with it, because a couple scary experiences can make it harder to get the boots on the next time. But so we're getting into like more interesting terrain,
Yeah.
and even kind of more like, well, what do you think? I mean, like,
Mhm.
like, okay, well, you can be the leader, and like, what would you want to do? And that's because she's a strong stopper. Like she's figuring out turn to stop. Um, you
Right.
know, we've got a lot of time on task compared to most families. So like, yeah, absolutely no parental flexes in here. It's just that's where we're at, and that's what we're doing. One thing that I'm looking forward to is I've got a good friend Jed who skied in college, and he's a strong skier, and he's got a boy roughly Darwin's age, and we're gonna get them out together. We haven't done any like skiing with buddies yet because in some ways it's just like I feel like it's all I can do to ensure her safety on the mountain. So
Mhm.
yeah, I think skiing with a buddy is going to be really fun, and it's going to kind of like start to open that door of like different dynamics of skiing. Right now, it's been something that she and I have always done together, and yeah, so that's where we're at. What about you guys?
I know.
Where are you guys at?
We're working on parallel turns with the 4 and the 5-year-old, um, and getting onto some steeper terrain and not going into like the big wedge and falling back, like you said, like getting in the back seat. So, we talk a lot about like our favorite animals and getting into our athletic animal stance and just trying to make it fun like that. And it's funny. I always tell them to put their hands forward. I guess maybe from mogul skiing, I'm like, put your hands forward, and they're like, Mom, the ski instructor does not tell us to put our hands forward. I'm like,
Is
okay, so I can get like kind of excited about the technical stuff and trying to get them
Yeah.
into the right position, and then I'm like, okay, all right. But
That's
yeah,
so
we're
funny. So Darwin, when we were in Big Sky, like we needed childcare. So the first time she ever skied without me was with an instructor,
uh,
and they had her. They were trying to get her to put her hands on her knees. I
hmm
just like I don't know. I would love to hear a PSA person weigh
yeah,
in. I just to me that's insane, right? Because it's like if you stand up and put your hands on your knees, like where do your hips go?
in back.
And
Hmm.
granted, like toddlers are proportioned very differently than you and me, but yeah, I mean, I try to
Yeah,
get her to put her hands forward. Like yesterday, we were playing with a unicorn toy. Um,
yeah,
but I don't. It's all very like ski based play.
yeah.
But
I pretty much let them decide where we go and what we do.
yeah,
I might suggest,
yeah,
like you guys want to try this, but for
yeah,
the most part, I'm just following and picking up the
yeah.
pieces if there's a wreck and making sure they get on and off the lift safely. But I really like they're very much at that 5-year-old like independent, like they
That's
kind of
awesome.
want to show a little bit of their independence.
Yeah.
It's getting exciting. I'm wondering if I now need to like put little trackers on them because one will go one way and the other will go the other way. And I'm like, wait,
Yeah,
you
man,
have to go the
that's
same.
gotta be a challenge, like taking two of them. But that's great, and
Yeah,
like that idea of freedom and
yeah,
exploration, and like I mean, that's like gonna lead to lifelong love of the sport.
yeah. I
Uh,
hope they
but do you
really.
find that you need to like have a really good knowledge of the terrain just so that you feel like you can ensure some level of like safety and experience. And
Yeah, there's really only so many places that we can go in Jackson. I mean, and they know the mountain pretty well, or at least the lower part of the mountain that we're on. But
yeah,
absolutely, yeah, I think knowing there's actually this little top section of trees that I had never even noticed, and one went down and the other went to go around, and I quickly yelled and pulled the other one back up and realized it all connected. But it's something to yeah think about, like especially when you're going somewhere new.
you and I were comparing and contrasting our home hills, and Vale has been kind of taking a beating in the in the media, and well deserved on many fronts. But they have done an incredible job with their kids skiing. Like these
Yeah,
areas, um, Porcupine Alley, Magic Forest, just these amazing places where they've put features in, and even at the top of the gondola in Lion's Head, you can ski into a cave, and there's a lights, and there's a like a mountain lion, and it's just like that. I think that they are really onto something about just making these, because you can sell it like it's this incredible,
yeah.
like, and it's very cool to see your kid explore and have those experiences. And so good job, Vail Resorts, for that.
Yeah.
Now pay your staff. But that's a
No, but
different talk show.
it makes such a difference. The kids get so excited for that kind of stuff, and it really is. It makes it more fun. It makes it more encouraging and motivating for them to keep
Yeah.
skiing. So, well, and you kind of came up close to us. You were in Big Sky. Is there anything you know that you learned on that work ski
Yeah.
vacation?
Yeah, it was
To
a work trip, but we traveled with skis, and I have to say, going on a ski vacation is so hard. um, we have it pretty good here, and so uh, not really any um, great uh, takeaways from that, other than just like kind of the empathy,
yeah,
like that it's hard to get from, so we put Darwin in ski school one day, and we had to figure out how to get her. We didn't have a car. We had to figure out how to get her from like where we were staying to where the ski school was, and it's just, it's really it's difficult taking. We kind of said in the last one, like you really got to want to take a kid skiing. Um, but no, other than empathy,
yeah.
not really any great takeaways there. How about you? Have you traveled for skiing? Do you have any?
No, I have. I no. We have not traveled as a family for skiing. I guess looking at there, it really does feel like some mountains though are much more set up for family skiing.
Yeah,
I think that would be a you know if we were going somewhere like going to Vale or somewhere that really has um, just that family vibe and also
yeah,
the terrain, because we're at that level of we're not skiing the whole mountain, but we're really enjoying like the animal trails and the like
yeah,
kid stuff. So
yeah. I think
yeah,
that's well said.
yeah. So you were skiing this morning, right, with your wife who's in her third trimester. It's
First day of the
amazing.
third trimester. Yeah, the snow we've gotten here, it's just been unreal. Like the amount of snow that we've gotten in the last 4 days. So yeah, we got out and
That's awesome.
skied, and it was a lot of fun. We're very fortunate to get out on a Wednesday and
Yeah.
post like kind of the first time the sun came out after the storm. So yeah, it was a really really beautiful day.
Yeah, and I love that on I know Tuesdays are Daddy Darwin days,
Yeah.
and yeah, did you kind of have that vision in the beginning of the season, like this is how we're going to be able to, create some boundaries for your schedule
Yeah,
to be able
it's so
to.
funny. So this is so we talk about like love letters to skiing, right? And it's like I
Mhm.
wifed skiing up. I put a ring on it. Like Beyonce would be proud, right? Like it's like, I love skiing in a way that I'm willing to like completely organize my life around it. So I work for a Churchley Financial Group, um, and it's somewhat flexible. And so one of the things that we do is like we buy the first tracks. Um, and so a couple weeks ago, we had some of our high net worth clients out on first tracks, and that's like where you get to ski Vale before it opens to the public. It's like a
That's
7
fun.
a.m. lift load. And we're doing it again with the financial advisors that we work with in March. And so, good culture there. I've put together um, a profession where it's there's everything's a trade off. And so, I'll work kind of weird hours to be able to do this, and then I just decided that Darwin's 3.5, and so this idea of keeping her out of preschool one day a week just to have data Darwin time. I've got my elbows out around that. I mean, to say that I don't work on Tuesday isn't quite true, but I mean, I'm with her all day, and it's something that we both look forward to. And um, yeah, I mean, we've just built a life around wanting to live in the mountains and prioritize this. And you know, the trade offs are what you'd think they are. Like don't live in a we live in a townhouse. Like I mean, we don't. Like it's not. Um, but like the amount of joy that a day like today skiing with Rachel, or yesterday, those are things that we've really built our lives around. And so, yeah, I mean, it's kind of like we took the love letter uh, past casual flirtation, past the school dance, all the way to, I've been in a I guess I started skiing when I was 2. I mean, so 40 plus monogamous relationship with 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 skiing. If we're beating a dead horse of this analogy, but yeah, I mean that's something that is just kind of
Yeah.
a choice that we've made that we build around, and you guys seem to have cast a similar lot.
Yeah, and well, I do think it's inspiring that you've carved out that time, and um, even when you live close to the mountains, it's easy to get pulled into to the grind of trying to make it all work here, work in these like resort towns where things are kind of in flux sometimes, and we both are self-employed, so
Mhm.
it is like, I don't know, it's nice to just see other people doing it and making that time and remembering that like there's no perfect balance, like there is a trade-off, um, but it is worth it for your emotional, mental, physical health, and for the experiences and the core memories that you're making.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think good on you. I think that's you've had an amazing season. It's exciting,
Thanks.
and I'm excited to see you with the new little one next year.
Yeah, yeah, and it's gonna be a lot, but yeah, no, it's just something that we've really been intentional about. And my wife's a school psychologist for Eagle County. So yeah, we're committed to it and making it work. And I mean, we hope the girls love it, and if they don't, we'll have to reevaluate things. But yeah, I mean, for now, that's kind of how we're doing it.
That's awesome. Um, well, do you want to get into kind of some of the tactical stuff? Like, how have you been? You've talked a little bit about like just getting to the mountain and getting out on skis with Darwin. Is there any like gear that you've found that's made that
Um,
easier?
yeah, yeah. I brought some props, some things to
Yay!
talk about. Uh, so one is I've had this relationship with Swanee gloves. Uh, it's been decades now. I did this post that's kind of funny because it's like when you're on the podium, you have to like kind of make sure that like all your sponsors are visible. So like one of the cheesy moves is like putting your glove on top of the ski. And so I recreated a podium picture of me when I was probably in my teens. I've got a Swanee glove on my ski with Darwin's, and now Swanee sends Darwin stuff, which is pretty incredible. And this mitten is really a game changer. Um, it opens up and zips
Love
and
it.
allows you to take their hand and make sure that the thumb is in the thumb hole and that you can put it together, zip it, and then clip that down. And it's got a nice small. And it's like harder for a. I mean, Darwin's at a point now where she like gets it, but like when like 1 year old or whatever, like harder to like rip and
Oh,
throw. So I mean, I'm sure some other companies do a similar zip. I actually haven't seen it anywhere else.
oh,
But that was really big for us. Obviously, explore, and we'll have to have Karissa kind of explain the product line. Another thing is Oakley. And so this helmet is incredible. Like I can't say enough good things about it. It's incredibly light. It's got MIPS. It's got the dial. And another thing that's kind of cool is like, so this is Darwin's helmet, and this is Mom's helmet, and they're just like, not doing the scale here, but they're just exactly the same thing. And
Yeah.
I feel like as you're introducing equipment, I'm sure at 14, 15, whatever, like having the same helmet as mom is like deeply uncool. But at 3 years old, having the exact same equipment as mom is very cool. And so, so like this is Rachel's line miner goggle, and then Darwin's got her line miners. She's got a sunny lens and a light lens, and so I always like color code the bags. So the dark lens gets a dark bag.
Hmm.
So this is her dark lens, and it's like literally the same lens tech, same shape, keyhole nose, everything as mom's. I wear a Mod One helmet, but I guess I have the Mod One Pro, so it looks slightly different, and the uh, Mod or the Line Miner Pro goggle, which is new this year. But anyway, I do think that I was just blown away at how good those
Yeah.
pieces of equipment were because particularly the helmet. I'm not gonna say who made it because that would be unkind, but like our first ski helmet before Oakley sent us that one was really clunky. Like I realized it was kind of like back to what I was saying about ski boots. Like it weighed the same amount as my helmet, and that's just not gonna be a good outcome, right? Like when you're dealing with
No.
a kid that small. And yeah, so I think those are two really incredible pieces of equipment. I haven't had the chance to try it, but Fisher is making a kids boot, which is really cool. It's grip walk, it's light, completely redesigned, like less overlapping plastic. My friend Tess Weaver, I think, is going to be writing about it. I know she's testing it with her little one, and I just want to kind of call that out because I think that's so cool. Because obviously, making the world's greatest kids boot is like not going to move the needle on your P&L,
Hmm.
but it's just a really cool thing that
Yeah.
Fisher's doing. So yeah, I've not had a chance to try that, but even just kind of calling out the fact that like Oakley is willing to like put that kind of tech and that kind of care into kids stuff is cool and worth noting. And then yeah, I mean, I definitely want you to explain the
Yeah.
explore piece.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, just going all the way back up to when we were talking about, you know, did you use edgy wedgie or uh, harness or I think my what I've learned about myself in parenting is that I do have to keep things simple. I enjoy things more if they're simple and if there's less stuff. So our merino line was definitely that was our objective was to create a simple layering system so you could get out and do the things that you love and get outside in the middle of winter um, when it feels just too cold to get outside. But what I noticed when we started was just that there wasn't any great merino wool layers for really little babies. Like most of the merino companies didn't go under size 4.
Yeah,
So yeah, so Explore has merino wool base layer line from newborn babies all the way up to adults. um, and we have what I have on, like the thinner base layer, and I'll wear this in an outer layer if it's like 25 and up. um, and then I add our mid layer if it's you know 20 and below, um, 20 and below, um, and kind of play with that depending on how I'm feeling that each day. But I've noticed for the kids, like that works really well as long as they have a merino layer in their outer piece on. They're good with like 20, 25 and up. Really cool brands and companies out there now seeing that, like, their target market wants to do the things that they love with their kids, and they care about quality for their kids as well. So
yeah. I mean,
um,
it's been incredible for us, and it just kind of goes back to that love. And I think it's so funny. Like, before I was married and had kids, it's like you'd see, I don't know, maybe somebody like getting their girlfriend into it, and it's like don't give her crappy stuff. Do it,
Yeah.
and it's like this, and
Yeah.
like now it's kind of the same thing with the kids. It's like, no, don't give your kids crappy stuff. It's like it's tempting, and it's like
Yeah.
I never had a new anything. I've got an older brother. I never had a new anything until I became a sponsored athlete, and
Yeah.
that's fine, right? Like I was like that's fine. But it's not great. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And it's like I don't know. You know, we've made this kind of being back to like being married to the game. You know, like I mean, we've made this choice that like this is where we live. This is what we love to do. And so, you know, cutting corners on kids stuff is not wise. Um,
Yeah.
you know, and so having just that base of the pyramid, right? Like you know, like you have to be comfortable, right?
Yeah.
And so it's like it's just been a game changer, you know. And we've been so fortunate, like through our friendship, that you know Darwin's been in a you know I remember that 0 to 3. I remember when you first sent us like the 0 to 3 onesie and it
Yeah.
had a hat, and I was just like it kind of blew my mind because I can't even imagine like it, you know it's like before she was born, you know, like just kind of like a human in
Yeah.
it. But it's like, but it's so cool because it's like yeah, Rachel and I we wear merino like next to our skin when we go out and do these things, and
Yeah.
it you know, we're comfortable and we love it. And it's like the fact that that was missing from the environment. It's like the same way that the kids boot needs redesigning. It's the same way that that you know first ski helmet we had was like
Mhm.
you know this clunky mess, and
Yeah.
just you know I mean so it's like yeah it just kind of starts with like if you don't want to put that on your body to go do this sport, but you know somehow this you know little tiny human who can't even like explain in most
Yeah.
cases you know like how their you know temperature regulation is going is going to be happy is really you know just kind of
Yeah.
101 you know just like the the absolute first step that no one thought about until you guys. So yeah,
Well, yeah.
thanks for all you've done for you know getting our kiddo comfortable.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, no, it was um by the time I had my second, we had the line pretty much set. And I remember the first time I went cross country skiing with her at like she was 10 days old, and had like a blowout in her ski suit. And that could have been, she was so little, like that could have been like really uncomfortable for her, but she never even woke up.
That's
I like got her back to the car, and it was like so gross, I know, but like she was like, whatever. Merino actually pulls, like the moisture away from your skin. And the amount of research that's being done around merino and really little babies is really exciting.
yeah.
um so anyways, thanks, Michael.
Well, yeah.
What are, just back to on the hill, like I know we've talked a bit about your thoughts on carrying kids, like skiing. I sometimes have to pick up my little ones. Like what are your thoughts on
Yeah,
it?
no, it's one. It's like I've got a whole TED talk about it. It's one of the things that kind of drives me crazy, like just seeing like people doing unsafe things. I mean, I don't think it's a great idea. I do it all the time. I don't think it's a great idea, and I do it all the time. I will say that I have like decades of coaching experience, and ski coaching is really just the art of carrying very heavy things from point A to B with skis on. Like we were actually going up, we started our day in Gold Peak, and like because of all this snow, like every coach was out on the mountain and they pulled the B net and rolled it up, and so it's like you know you ski
Yeah.
around with like you know I don't know 35 pounds, 2 35-pound nets on either side, and you know and in the summer you're lugging bags of salt that are 50 pounds, and so it's something that I do, and I do it mostly to like open up terrain. Uh,
Yeah.
I would love to see a ski resort if anybody's listening, like put back to put B net on a bunny slope and say this is a U6 area.
Yeah.
Because you know, like you'll see the heavyweights, right? Like you'll see full grown adults like learning how to ski and they aren't in control, and that's
Mhm.
okay because they're learning, right? But it's like when we're trying to learn alongside them with a 1 year old, um, you know, like the outcomes can be pretty scary. So I do transport Darwin. I also, you know, bail not unlike other resorts that kind of ends in a funnel, and so like there's a lot of times
Mhm.
where I'll just grab her, and I would just say it's something to really think about, and other considerations are I see a lot of people like teaching their kids how to ski with touring bindings, which in my opinion like really shouldn't be used on the mountain kind of hard stop. And
Yeah.
you know, Cody Townsend does this great uh, dissection of like all the different bindings comes to the same conclusion. It should not be skied on the mountain. And, the toe pieces do lock. I would say if you are going to ski with your kid and you are going to transport them, lock that toe piece on a tech binding because they do not release anywhere near as predictably or, it is just a totally different standard. So there's that consideration. And then also, I'm still skiing an insanely high din. So if I add 30, 40 pounds
Mhm.
by person, it's not a problem. But if you're, a more recreational skier with a more recreational din setting and you're adding 30, 40 pounds to that, well, the chances of
Yeah.
you pre-releasing are very high. So yeah, I think that's I think that's something to really think about. And if you are going to carry your kid, yeah, just be careful. I mean, there's that video of like Tony Hawk like skateboarding with one of his kids that everyone's like chastising him, and you're like, it's Tony Hawk,
Yeah.
right? Like that
Yeah.
doesn't most of us are not Tony Hawk. So try to be smart about that and take those considerations into
Yeah.
account. Yeah.
Yeah. I know. I told you the 4 and the 5-year-old, like I pick them up to put them on the lift. And I think that's one of the things I've learned about myself. I'm not always good about asking for help. And I'm like, I probably could just ask the lifty for help. Like,
Yeah.
but anyways, no, it is one of those things that's just good to think about in safety. And I would love if they would, you know, do some more just like kid areas. I feel like I'm the one that's like skiing like this, like slow down,
Oh my God.
and like
Between
screaming
my
at high
parents being
scores.
yeah, between my parents being almost 80, my wife being pregnant, and Darwin being 3, like I'm like just feel like like when they scramble the jets to like control the airspace, like I
Yeah,
don't know, I'm very nervous. And there's like
yeah,
a fair amount of substance abuse on the mountain. And
yeah.
and the end of, I don't know, I think it's just like those are things to maybe think about, is like, where's the mountain funnel, what time of
Hmm.
day is it, right? Like sometimes it's nice to let the temperatures increase to get your kids out, but then you've just got that like everyone's got tired legs, you
Hmm.
know, bombing down into these funnels. And that stuff's I see it as very very dangerous. I'd say consider downloading.
Yeah.
Like if you wanted to get your kid to the upper mountain to find some low angle stuff that's maybe less populated, you know, downloading is actually kind of fun. Like
Hmm.
Tara and I download six a lot, and it's like, it's kind of exciting. It's a fun thing for
Yeah.
her. And I just think, yeah, just really having a plan as far as what kind of
Yeah.
terrain is suitable for your kid now. Maybe what are the next steps? How do you get there? If you do get them in over their head or it's just not the right day, what's your plan? Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, just keeping everyone safe. Like those big negative experiences are what you really want to avoid. Yeah, and then
Absolutely.
obviously like hurting yourself is a bummer as
Yeah.
well.
Big bummer. So, just looking ahead, what are what are your dreams for skiing with Darwin and
Oh
this
man.
year and years to
Um,
come?
well, so you and I, like, we're friends, so we're always kind of talking offline. But I really want to reintroduce Nordic skiing, and I talked
Yeah.
to I think next year I'm just going to coach. I'm going to coach a 2-day a week program called Future Stars through Vale. And I've always kind of joked that those coaches are so impressive, the Nordic coaches, because
Hmm.
in these small towns, like we're all competing for like the same group of kids.
Yeah.
And so I'm over there like bouncing on the trampoline, like, hey, who wants to be a mogul skier? And Dan Weiland, one of my good friends who runs the Nordic program, is like, who wants to run to the top of the mountain? I'll time you.
Yeah.
And you're just kind of like, that's insane. Like if you can get people to do that, you are punching above your weight as a coach, in my opinion. And so yeah, I really want to reintroduce Nordic skiing. And I was talking to those guys about how they do it. And it's just all ski based play. Like like we play sharks and minnows, we play like fox and hen. I don't even know what that means, but it's like they're just moving with the skis on their feet. They're doing that. I know you had a big win. Everly did her first first Nordic race.
Yeah.
Um, you tell us about that? It sounds like a
Yeah, the
milestone.
moose chase. Yeah, she's doing the Nordic program here in Jackson. It's at her age, she's now twice a week. So Monday, Wednesdays, and Yeah, they're out there for like an hour and a half, and it's all ski-based play.
Oh,
It's all ski-based play. They're like, there's, they kind of give us an idea each month. Like February, like they did a lot of like Valentine's Day type games. They had like cut out hearts like out on the trail. I mean, they go above and beyond to create some really fun things for the kids. And then yeah, she was thrilled with the the moose chase race. They did a 2K last weekend, and I'm like, 2K, like that's a decent amount
Basic
for,
hills, yeah.
yeah, with hills. And she's like, Mama, I just was so red by the end. I was so hot. I was sweat. I was sweating. And I'm like, yeah, how did it feel? And she's like, it felt good. So
Yeah.
um,
That's
she's
so
just like,
cool.
no,
Like, it's so cool to hear about that because I feel like that's the resilience. That's like what we want for our kids, and it's like, it probably like wasn't fun, like, but it's like achievement, right? It's like that type two fun, and like, and now like, here I am, like, cheering her on from several states away, and yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, I mean, so as far as we're just gonna kind of keep. I can't wait for the spring because I just like that is the time to take a kid skiing.
yes,
Um, so I'm really excited about that. As far as you know skills acquisition or like any, I don't have
yeah,
anything about that. And I know that was one of the questions that you'd asked was like kind of like the biggest challenges. And
yeah,
kind of like back to like, this isn't a parental flex, but like we haven't had that
mm,
because every time we go skiing, the goal is to go skiing. And
awesome,
like we've had times where like I took her out and I probably shouldn't have, and it was one run,
yeah,
but it was fine because like we've gone into each thing with just the goal of like going skiing. And so, I know it's going to get more complicated as we get older. And I, is kind of talking about like the operating system and what we're doing with with sledding, where we're trying to pick a goal and achieve that goal. And I know that when that stage in skiing comes, like we'll probably have more you know fails and acrimony and everything that goes with it. But right now, I mean, it's not like, oh, everything's, I've got this like wonder child or anything like that. It's just that, no, like my expectation, like where I'm kind of setting my own like parental goal, right, of like,
yeah.
of just being really there for her and her skiing and her experience. So yeah, I mean, so far we haven't really had had any big challenges. We've had some bad days, or I mean, like
Yeah.
days that went great, but but it's just always like, as long as like the goal is to get to the mountain and
Yep.
kid up
No, I
and
think,
slide down to snow, then like then it's really hard to you know
I, yeah, to have a bad day. I
hard to
think
fall
that
short of that.
I think I think having that frame of mind and just keeping it to that one decision, that kind of one decision matrix, is this like adding to the love of the sport or not, and kind of going from there, for me has really helped. I'm excited about that. I mean, I'm excited how much has changed um, for me and my and because I feel like I kind of got pulled into the like, oh, we should be skiing this type of terrain, and getting my kids on stuff that they weren't ready for, and it wasn't a great experience. And so being able to take that pressure off and being like, you know what, no, we're just having fun right now, is about connection. It's about
Yeah.
the experience has been a huge game changer. So thank you. I love our talks.
Yeah, yeah. Should we tease some of the stuff that we got coming
Yeah,
up, or do you want to just do an outro?
yeah,
What do you want
I
to?
know. So I'm excited to speak with Brenda.
Brenda Buglione is a former U.S. ski team athlete. Her husband Jeff Kerwood skied at Dartmouth. They're just an amazing family. I think that when you are in these, one of the things that's really cool about these mountain communities is you have exposure to people of different ages. Um,
Mhm.
and so when I was at Ski and Snowboard Club Vail, I got to know them really well. Their kids were all alpine, but when I owned a restaurant in Vail for a long time, and Clay, her oldest, had his first summer job with me, so I got to kind of have that experience with them. Um, Kate's amazing, and then Nikki was like this. He's the youngest. Was just a amazing little skier, so I kind of took an interest in all of them, and I don't know if it's just like the athletic thing where you kind of like have heroes and role models, but I really kind of felt like they have become heroes and role models to me as parents, um, because they have these three kids that love to ski, were all successful. They all skied in college, and then now they're I mean, Nikki just started college, but they're like doing these like family ski trips. Like they took like a family heli trip and all these things. And so I just kind of
That's
see,
awesome.
I see them as like, I think when I was like, 14 years old, like I was like looking at uh, World Cup skier that I admired, and so now I find myself kind of like looking at this family as like people
Yeah.
that I admire um, for what they've done with family skiing. And yeah, it's super funny. Like Brenda she's done a lot of like ski modeling for Vail Resorts, and so I'll still see pictures of like Brenda and Nikki, Nikki's probably bumping up against 20 now, but like it's like Nikki when he's like 7 or 8. He's this little tiny Nikki like on like a trail map or on a sign, and Brenda does a TV show called Snow Motion. I've shot a bunch with her, different segments, and so um, yeah, I can't wait to talk to her because, in my opinion, she's crossed the finish line with a statistically significant amount of children. You know what I mean? Like if you've got one that
Yeah.
kind of loved it and skied and whatever, but like she's got three, and so I think that there's a lot to learn
That's awesome.
from her, and so I'm excited to do that. And then on the way back from the mountain, when I called you and I said, "Hey, I'm making bad decisions, and I'm going to be late because I'm prioritizing skiing over this," we were talking because like I said, my wife just entered her third trimester, and we have an amazing doctor up here, and I just think that um, we're going to do a podcast with them, and we'd love to get as many questions leading into it as possible. And the questions would be around um, skiing and outdoor sports in general while pregnant, and then also postpartum, like how do you, when is it? I don't know. I'm the worst person to be queuing this up, but we're going to bring in our good friend Dr. Zach Kent, and then my wife Rachel, and Karissa, obviously, who's had two children of her own, just to kind of, yeah, I'll probably sit that one out, but just to have a really great, resource and conversation around, um, the mom side of all of this. So those are two things that we got coming up.
Yes, and we would love to get lots of questions beforehand. So thank you and stay tuned.
All right, thanks for listening.
Thanks, Michael.
Okay.
Thank you guys so much for joining. That's a wrap on today's episode. A huge thank you to Michael for sharing his insights and being there with us as a dad who's in the trenches figuring this out, just like the rest of us. Hopefully, this episode gave you some practical tips to make getting out on the mountain easier, less stressful, and most importantly, fun for both you and your kids. Don't forget, if you want to take part in our Love Letter to Skiing giveaway, send us your letters and you will be in the running to win a $200 gift card to Explore. Also, make sure to subscribe for the Born for Adventure podcast so you don't miss next week's episode, where we'll be talking to Brenda Buglione, a former World Cup ski racer and mom of three who raised some seriously talented skiers. She shares how she balanced competition, fun, and family in their ski journey, plus her best advice for raising lifelong skiers. Until next time, get out there, make some memories, and we hope to see you on the slopes. Bye.